many businesses actually have more than 5 strategic goals for the business? They don't. Surely they don't, because they're not strategic.
They can't have. They're not, yeah. Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, the founder of RecTools.io. RecTools is the world's largest whole-of-market directory for recruitment suppliers. So if you're a recruitment business owner and you're looking for a new invoice financing company, a new CRM, a new job board, perhaps some automation tools, and you want to check out some new payroll solutions for your business, some new tech software, get over to RecTools.io. It's whole-of-market, it's free to access, and it's there to help you kind of direct your business and grow it in the right manner. So today's episode's a bit of a different one, actually. So I've got a guest who's actually outside of the recruitment sector.
I'm an alien.
You're an alien. Yeah, as far as we are, yeah. Well, what do you do? What exactly do you do? We don't understand. You don't fit our verticals. My guest today is the founder of Verten, Davoc Bradley, and Davoc has an extensive career in sort of tech and tech enablement and sort of supporting businesses succeed. And really the main topic we're here to discuss today is, why do most businesses not achieve their potential, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. And I mean, so I do a mixture of IT and business leadership, but I've also, Verten have built a sales enablement product that works real time to assist salespeople to basically close a lot more deals than they do without it, if that makes sense. Yeah. But so it's a great question, isn't it? Why do so many businesses not reach their potential? In fact, I would say the vast majority of businesses don't reach their potential.
It's a very positive way of saying why do most businesses fail, isn't it?
Well, I mean, there's hugely successful businesses out there, aren't there, that don't prioritize well.
Yeah.
And yet they're still successful. But imagine how successful they could be if they actually ran their business slightly better, marginally better.
Yeah.
You think if you're a big business, or even if you're a small business, you live and die by how well you choose what you should be working on as a business, right? Mm-hmm. So, for instance, Kodak went bust. And why did Kodak go bust? Because they completely lost where the market was going and were focusing on all the wrong things and trying to deliver the wrong things. Yeah. And so they went bust. But
it's the same as the Nokia, that is that famous Nokia press conference where they're like, we did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But we still failed. And it was like, well, actually, no, you missed the trend.
Exactly, yeah.
So, interesting. Okay. So from your point of view then, you mentioned marginal changes and marginal differences, right? Putting it into the recruitment sector specifically, I think one of the issues that we have as an industry is we're very slow to react to trends and change. Yeah, we are getting much better, but we're not very good at data-led decision making. Yeah, we kind of very much like, which way is the wind blowing? My market's different, my business is different. Mm-hmm. You must get that kind of wider. That can't just be exclusively a recruitment industry thing, right? Where everyone's sort of like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying, Davoc, but that wouldn't work for me.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that when it comes to new and emerging trends and things like that, I actually think that very few times does a new piece of software or something like that massively change the industry. Now, any industry. Now, AI obviously has done that. AI is a massive change, which has completely turned everything on its head. But if you think you've got to adopt AI, whatever you're doing, whatever it is you're working in, you've got to adopt it now, because otherwise you will be behind all your competitors who already have, right? Yeah. So you have to do that. But if you take that as a granted that you're going to do AI, then making the right choices to which AI is marginal gain. They're all going to be much of a muchness if you think about it. And if you look at technology-wise, when you're adopting, let's say you're going to take a new CRM, they all do the same stuff. It's just which one fits. Oh, they all do. Yeah. They all do the same basics.
Yeah. I've got connections that would argue to the death otherwise, but that's their job, right?
Yeah.
But okay. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So
but they all do the same.
It's a tool set.
Basically.
Yeah. You've decided that you're going to invest in the CRM, and now you've got to find the one that fits your business. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, they should all be somewhere where you can store information, contact that information, add your notes on.
Exactly.
They're fundamental parts of the system. So
Yeah, unless it's a hopeless CRM that doesn't do the basics, then pretty much an off-the-shelf CRM will do very similar things to any other off-the-shelf CRM. So when you add all the customizations in and things like that, it becomes more tailored to you as a business or whatever. But when I do business leadership coaching and IT leadership coaching, what I actually focus on is not what's the next technology or next trend that you're trying to do. I actually focus primarily on making the business well-oiled to be able to deliver. And then if you say, we do need to look at something, your entire business can pivot to that thing very quickly.
Give an example of that, because I think in our sector, we our business owners will probably admit this themselves. We're very magpie. We see the next shiny thing and we run to it. Oh, I want that. I want that.
Yeah.
And then you look back in 6 months later and you're like, hang on a minute, my costs have gone up exponentially. I've got a tech suite that half my team don't use and the other half don't understand.
Yeah.
And I'm sat there scratching my head thinking I've got to now double my revenue just to cover the cost of all the new tech I've bought.
Yeah.
Right? So
exactly.
how are you... So it's very easy to sit there and be like, now I look at kind of, right, let's look at the business as a whole and make you change ready. How do you do that?
Well, if you think about it, right, if you look at any business, outside or inside of recruitment, right, if you were to say to them, what are your priorities? 99% of businesses will say, well, these 10 are our priority 1 things that we need to deliver. Then these 23 things are our priority 2 things that we need to deliver. And then these 40 things are our priority 3 things that we need to deliver. And in their minds, they've prioritized because they've got priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3, right? Now, if you try and say to them, well, which one's the most important out of those priority 1 things, they can probably tell you, but they're not telling anybody else. It's in their head, right? So they've got 10 priorities in their priority 1, and everybody thinks that all of them are equally important, but they're not.
Yeah.
And the problem that they've done is that they haven't prioritized. So they've categorized. They've categorized. The priority 2 and priority 3 things you should take off the table completely.
Yeah.
The priority 1 things need to be sequentially prioritized. Now, I'll give you an example, and I'm going to go a little bit outside of the box here with this. Imagine if you're running a gardening business, right? And there's one of you, and you work on a garden, and let's say on average time it takes you, say, 3 days to complete a garden renovation or whatever it is you do.
I'm with you.
So you take 3 days. Now, let's apply your magpie theory to it, right? Somebody phones up and says, oh, it'd be great if you could just come and do this for me. So they're partway through doing the garden, and then they stop and they go to somebody else's house and then start a bit of another garden. And then somebody phones them and says, oh, do you think you could come for a bit more money? You could come and have a look at this one instead. So they then change and they go and look at another garden. Now, that first garden was going to take 3 days to complete from start to finish.
Okay.
But now they're working on 3 gardens all at the same time. Now, if you think about in business, that happens literally all the time. One person will work across multiple different things because actually the priority isn't clear. So the priority should be to do one of them and finish it and then move on to the next. And I'll explain why.
How much of that do you think is down to the fact that the priority in that scenario is revenue? Like you can't say no to work, right?
Yeah.
What's our priority as a business? Making money. So, if you're doing garden 1 and garden 2 comes along and goes, oh mate, can you have a look at mine? Absolutely, I can. Don't turn down work. Just keep taking it all on. We need the money, right?
But so the problem is that when you start doing that, actually everything takes longer to deliver.
Yeah.
And because everything takes longer to deliver, your revenue will not be as good as it would be if you were to focus on one thing and delivering it. So if I carry on my gardening analogy, right? Let's say you've got that one garden and you neglect it for 2 days because you're doing these other 2 gardens, right? Well, a garden grows, doesn't it? So the gardens become harder to get finished. So it's not going to take you 3 days anymore. And this is exactly the same. If you think about any piece of work, if you change from one piece of work to another and then go back to the original piece of work, there's an overhead to doing that.
It's
And
sprouting heads. The weeds are back.
Exactly, the weeds are back.
Yeah, I get it.
And not only that, if you're doing something relatively complex and you stop doing it and you try and get back into it, you have to remember where you were when you finished. You've got to get yourself back up to speed. You know, in a business sense, it takes
you got to
a
put
lot
yourself
more.
back into the mindset of that. Yeah.
And that instantly slows it down. But if you think weeds, if you were to look at software, for instance, because obviously I've spent a lot of time in software. If you were to look at software, the problem is when you leave something, it becomes harder to pick it up again without there being other problems associated with it. And that's the same in any business, not just software. But if you think for the gardening analogy, let's say you're working through it, and this is very common. Let's say you really want to complete a piece of work before you move on to the next, but you hit a blocker. So in your garden, you found a massive stone that you can't lift on your own. So you're going to hire something to help you lift it out, like a digger or whatever. But that's going to take a day for you to get it. So instead of focusing on clearing that blocker that you've got, you change to do somebody else's garden. Well, you're in that same situation now where you've got multiple gardens on the go.
Well, what are you supposed to do though? Because you can't. Yeah, say the digger can't come until next week, or in our industry, for example, you've shortlisted the job, you've sent the CVs, but the client hasn't come back because they're not looking at CVs. They can't do interviews until next week. You can't sit and twiddle your thumbs at that time, right?
No,
so you've got to do something productive.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you. There will be times where you have to do multiple things at the same time, right? But when it comes to any sort of large project or any bigger piece of work, focusing on making sure that you clear blockers in it rather than starting new work is super important. Because if you think every time you pick up another piece of work, it means that everything will take longer to deliver.
Okay.
One of the big problems that you have in a business is when somebody hires another person, they typically don't say, right, we've hired another person to help me with my garden, so that we've got two people who can now together lift the rock and move it or whatever.
Right.
Instead of doing that, you say, oh, well, we've just taken on another piece of work, you go and do the other garden. But those two people working together on one garden typically will finish it significantly faster than one person working on it. So actually collaborating on work to get it done before then collaborating on the next piece of work to get it done and keep on doing that, not only does it reduce your risk because everything that you've got running has a chance to get blocked, it also has a chance for something to go wrong with it because you're not tending to it enough. So if you think the more time you spend spreading yourself across lots and lots of different things, the more things are likely to go wrong. So the fewer things that you work on at a time, then the less things can go wrong, which means that you're more likely to finish those things before moving on to the next.
I'm with you. No, I get that. I guess when you're revenue driven though, the natural instinct is to be like in the mindset of like speculate to accumulate. Do you know what I mean? You want to hedge your bets. You want to spread across multiple kind of avenues. If you're selling a product, if you take it to the sales enablement tool that you've built. Are you going to pitch it one at a time to your ICP, or are you going to go, I need to pitch this to as many different businesses in as many different verticals as possible in the hope that something pays off, because 9 out of 10 of them will probably have experienced some sort of blocker. Decision makers you're not in budget, we're not looking right now, and so on and so forth. So do you know what I mean? Like,
I do. But actually, if you were to talk about that, what I've done is I've really niched down. So my entire sales thrust for my new product is focusing on IT for a start, businesses that work in IT, and then I'm going even narrower to managed service providers within IT, which means that actually I've got quite a narrow field, which means that it's easy to understand who the right people are to speak to. It means that I don't have to exhaust a lot of my energy trying to understand a lot of different areas because actually I'm in IT mainly, right? So for me, it makes sense for me to sell to people who I understand the language of. If I try and sell to somebody that I don't understand the language of, it becomes instantly harder and it dilutes my ability to sell to the people that I can.
That's because you're selling the features though, rather than the outcome.
Oh no, right? I'm selling the outcome.
But if you sell the outcome, it's funny how like we're very kind of opposite on this. I accept and I respect what you're saying in the super niche, stick to what you know, and your success rate's going to be a lot higher.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I completely agree, but
Yeah.
I can't help but, like, the salesperson in me can't help but kind of creep out and be like, yeah, I get that, but actually, I could take this product and I could spread it across multiple different disciplines, verticals, and sectors and industries.
Yeah.
And those who get it will sell it to themselves. In that we'll go, I get this. This is how it fits into my team and my business.
Yeah.
I like this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like the sort of the way we buy tech now and the way we kind of adopt new technologies now as businesses has changed, in that we don't need somebody to show us this industry specific tool. What we do need is somebody to show us this new feature, and we basically convince ourselves to go, I could use that in my business in this capacity, I could do this with it. There's something there. Let me look at it.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. But the other challenge, though, is that if you try and sell across a large number of verticals, say, the challenge is that your marketing costs go up significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're having to then also pick particular words that resonate with particular industries and things like that. So it becomes more challenging from that perspective.
Of course, yeah.
I would say, from pulling you back to the prioritization stuff, if you think about most startups that get investment are successful until they get investment. And then the number of businesses that get investment and fail goes up quite significantly. And the reason
is
for
that because of the magpie thing? Is that because like, all of a sudden I've got
loads of money, so I'm going to hire loads of people and I'm going to get them to do all of my brilliant ideas.
Whereas actually, is the land and expand the better route? You know, because it's funny. Yeah, I'm having exactly this conversation at the minute with my CTO and another chap that we're looking at a tech product for.
Yeah.
And my angle is, no, we go after everybody.
Yeah.
And in contrast, my CFO's angle is, no, we pick a CRM, a ATS, a, and we make it work there, and then we land and expand, rather than just sort of try and go from 0 to 100 in like one burst. So it's interesting, actually, yeah, because
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with going 0 to 100. The challenge is that you're going to
the failure rate's higher, isn't it? That's the issue.
But you're also going to feel so much pain. And it's going to be exhausting trying to keep that on the tracks, if you see what I mean. Because you're just going to be overwhelmed with people asking you stuff about so many different things that to keep on top of it cognitively it's a lot harder than if you've got a much smaller, narrower field to focus on, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't diversify and do all that stuff. Absolutely you should. Because if you want to make money, typically you need to start diversifying at some point, because you'll run out of prospects. And the competition will become too hot or whatever. But actually,
then you rinse and repeat, right?
Yeah.
You go, okay, well, now we can pivot this product to a different niche, but again, another super, sort of specific, inch wide, mile deep kind of sector or vertical. Jump into that, yeah.
There's loads of tech businesses out there that have made a lot of money because they literally just focused on fintechs. Yeah. So we're just going to do stuff that supports fintechs. Or they've focused on another niche area. Well, fintech is quite big, but another area.
Like within fintech, you can be super specific as well, right?
You can, yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so then take it back to the business coaching piece then. So when you've then got a business owner that's like, okay, yeah, no, I have been prioritizing, and you're like, no, you've been categorizing.
Yeah.
Let's really look at your priorities.
Yeah.
That's not an overnight process either, right? In that you can't identify this, demonstrate that to a business owner and have them be like, oh, okay, I just got to reprioritize my priorities and we'll be all sweet again. What are the other pitfalls that then these guys have got to think about, and kind of how do you stop yourself from going back to what you would normally do?
Yes, it's a great question. I mean, what I would say is you can achieve a huge amount quite quickly. Now, what I typically do is my first stage will be actually so my gardening analogy, right? It's not going to resonate with a lot of people, but I can sit people in a room. Yeah. I can sit people in a room for 2 hours and we'll play a game. And at the end of that game, it'll be like turning somebody from an atheist into a believer. It's that polar opposite from where they were to where they end after 2 hours. I can run a game with them whereby basically they clearly can see the benefits of prioritization. And once that's happened, you have to start at the top. But once you've got the top on board, getting it to roll through the business is a lot easier if they're fully bought in. But because one big challenge that you'll see, and you see this in football all the time, you see it in business all the time, you change the manager of a football club, right? And getting their ethos through that team takes time. If you think Aston Martin recently changed the people at the top of the business, right? Now, the people at the top of the business would have worked in one particular way. Now the new people will work in a completely different way. And to get that to work through that business is going to be really difficult. And one of the challenges is always that actually they don't have a way of delivering priorities through the business. And even at the very top, if they're not clear on what are the priorities, how the hell do they get that to go through their business? And they will make changes and decisions all the time to change whatever direction they're going in and expect it to happen quickly. But actually, you've got people who are at the bottom who are saying, well, we've got some really important stuff that we're working on and we're not able to do it. Look at Wilco's, right? Wilco's have gone bust. And the reason Wilco's went bust is because they were massively badly mismanaged at the very top of the business. And because they didn't prioritize well, they changed their priorities regularly. They didn't trust their staff. There's so many things that went wrong, but because they didn't trust their staff, they didn't trust the ability to push priorities through the business, but not just from the top, but from the bottom, because you've got to make sure that people at the bottom are bought into the priorities. And the only way to do that is to get them to actually actively listen to them and things like that. So I've got a framework that I help businesses instill that basically will work whether you've got 10 people through to whether you've got 1,000, 2,000 people. And I know that it'll work with that bigger number of people because I've implemented it within companies that are that big and that small, and I've seen it work.
Okay, but there must be times where you're kind of like, this person's just not ready for the change, or they're not getting it, right?
Yeah.
So what's the characteristics of somebody that is like that? Because I know some incredible recruitment business owners who are so good at self-reflecting, and they'll openly put their hands up and be like, I know something needs to change. Yeah. But I'm just not ready. I'm not ready to do it. You know? Yeah. I still feel like, sticking on this route is going to get me to the result that I want. So how do you kind of identify somebody like that, and what advice would you give to a business owner who is like, hands up, I know something needs to change, mate, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think if somebody knows that they need to change, have you heard the analogy? And I'm probably going to get this wrong, right? But where it's unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence,
D1, D2, D.
Conscious competence, and then unconscious competence, right? Yeah. So if they can recognise that there's something wrong, then they're not in that unconscious incompetence anymore. They've moved up to conscious incompetence, but they're still not quite ready to take the leap into that next one. Yeah. But the fact if they actually recognise that they need to do something, but they're not quite ready, then they would speak to me when they are ready. I'm not going to try and force them out of their
No, of course not. But what advice would you give to somebody who's there but not quite kind of? The analogy that I think of is someone like me. I really need to get back in the gym. Yeah. I know I need to get back in the gym. I know I'd feel infinitely better, but I ain't got the motivation to do it yet, right? Yeah. Or somebody who has a problem with drink, and they know they shouldn't do it anymore, and they know they need to do something about it, but that step just feels so big that you're just like, I know. Yeah. I ain't there yet.
So actually, I've just been through this year. I would say running a startup on your own is hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It constantly challenges you. You've got to get up every single day of the week and motivate yourself to do the work. Yeah. And there's times where you don't want to do it. And there's times where you just want to go and play golf, like I'm going to do straight after this. And there's so many things that you could always. It's so easy to procrastinate and so easy to look and do something else. And what I found in myself is I was procrastinating at the start of this year. The procrastination made me feel low. It made me feel shit about myself. And because I knew I should be doing something different, but I wasn't doing it. I wasn't necessarily going up to my desk. I'd maybe do 2 hours work in a day. and I was thinking I should be doing 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever, however many hours to do this, to get it ready.
Interesting.
And I'm sat here on my phone looking at YouTube or whatever, not doing what I should be doing. And I felt utterly shit about it. And I actually realised that I was in conscious incompetence, basically. I realised I needed to do something about it. And actually, I found an incredible, essentially like a mindset coach who I went...
Didn't have you down as a midlife crisis kind of guy.
Yeah. I suppose it kind of is. I mean, my mum died in December. And I was already feeling shit before that. But whenever... Like, my dad died when I was like 27, so a long time ago. But when that happened, a big thing happened in my head that I realised, actually, life's short. I'm going to die at some point. Hopefully not soon. But don't do stuff that you don't want to do. And so from that moment onwards, I'd been doing that. And then I'd kind of drifted out of it to a point. And I've got a son who's nearly 6, and he's amazing, but really hard work, as I'm sure you know, because you've got young kids. But I knew that something wasn't right inside me, and I just wasn't feeling great. And I managed to find a great mindset coach who I've gone on a journey with, and I'm still working with now. But I went from procrastinating to absolutely smashing it every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. And what it boils down to, and I don't want to steal anything from Simon, who it is, it's a company called The Natural Edge. If people are interested, they're brilliant. But basically, he teaches you to just do the basics as well as you possibly can. He was in the Special Forces. He says the thing that makes the difference between somebody that's in the Special Forces and someone who isn't is that they're just exceptional at doing the basics well.
Right.
Yeah, that's all it is. That's the only difference. They're just very, very good at doing the basics well. And so we focus primarily on doing all the basics really, really well. So now, even when I'm having a shit week, because I still have them, right? We all do. But even now, when I'm having a shit week, because I'm doing my basics...
As long as you do the basics right and well.
Yeah. I'm still moving what my average is.
Still having a better day than...
I'm still having a better day than when I was having a good day before now. So a shit week for me is better than a good week it used to be.
I get that.
And that's how much of a change it's made to me. So I've gone way off track here.
No, I think the thing is that there's a lot of... See, it's interesting in the... Because people are very different, right?
Yeah.
Whilst we're all the same, we're also incredibly different. And I have a viewpoint on it in being a solo business owner. My weeks are entirely dictated by how I'm feeling and whether I can be asked that week or not, right? Truthfully.
Yeah.
But I have a mindset of like that we put ourselves on this productivity cycle and we beat ourselves up if we haven't worked 7, 8, 9 hours that day. Because how dare you not fucking work hard? You're supposed to work hard. You used to work for the man, now do it for yourself, that kind of thing. And I have this mentality that like, if I want to sit and watch TikToks for 3 hours, I'm going to fucking sit and watch TikToks for 3 hours. Because why the hell not? Like, who am I reporting to? Who am I responsible to? Myself. And actually, do you know what? I don't feel like I've done anything today. Yeah, but so what? Like, you might actually have needed that downtime because not everybody can work at that constant pace all the time, right? And I liken it to when I finished university, I really tried hard at uni. Like I did one in GCSE, I completely fluffed my A levels. I got like U's and E's at A level, right? And university
I did as well,
just not an option.
Yeah.
And then I kind of buckled down and got a diploma and then wanted to go to university. So I was like, no, I have to get my degree. And I worked really, really hard. And then I remember this weird feeling during the summer of like this guilt that I'm not doing anything. Like I feel guilty that I'm not working hard because I was cramming till 2 a.m. and doing these assignments. And now I've got this like sense of like, you lazy bastard, why aren't you doing anything? And I'm like, you do that to yourself.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't, because actually it's nice to be able to kick back. Why do you go and play golf on a Friday? Because you can.
Yeah.
And you want to.
I want to.
Right?
Although I'm not.
Why are you not working? Why aren't you grafting till midnight tonight? I don't care that it's a Friday, you know. Yeah, you got a kid, but your kid's there. Your kid's 6. You know, you ain't gonna remember anything until he's 8 anyway. Go back on the grind. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, it's funny. I'm the opposite. I'm like, be as lazy as you possibly can.
You're very lucky, because I think you're very lucky, because I think most people, their unconscious mind goes, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
You're taking the piss.
Yeah.
You are taking the piss.
I think you got to reach. I genuinely believe you have to retrain your mind with it.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
The truth is that you're absolutely right. Life is short, and like for me, like I had it earlier in the week. It was a really important Teams meeting. They were going to sign up to be a partner. This, that, and the other. Is like, "Oh, can we do 9 o'clock?" And I was like, "Can't do 9 o'clock."
Yeah.
I'll do the school run with my kids. And that's a non-negotiable. I drop them off to school, right?
Yeah,
I have done since they were little toddlers, and I will do until they're embarrassed of me, like banging music, dropping them in the car. And I was like, and then after that, I go and see my mum, and I have breakfast or tea or coffee or whatever with my mum every morning. My work day starts at 9:30. I'm not shifting that. And he got really put out by it. I was like, well, you know, you got to learn to be a bit more flexible, mate. Like, especially if you're trying to win business. I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. This is what you don't understand. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do. And I don't want to start my workday till 9:30. I want to go and have breakfast with my mum. I want to drop my kids off. I want to knock off early and go play golf. And I'm not going to beat myself up because my schedule doesn't fit your schedule.
Yeah.
And so when you take it back to the why do most businesses not achieve their potential, why should they have to?
Well,
as horrible as that sounds.
No, but there's two differences here, right? So you're talking about working when it suits you.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I'm 100% on board with that. What I'm talking about is working on the right priorities at the right times in the right order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I agree.
Which supports 100% what you're saying. If you see what I mean, because you want to work when suitable for you, and I'm not trying to change that about anybody. All I'm trying to say is, don't work on 20 things at once and expect to hit your potential as a business.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is work on maybe 3 things. Like, even massive companies shouldn't be working on more than 5 things. Because if they are, they're way too distracted on other stuff. Yeah? You shouldn't have... How many businesses honestly have more than 5 strategic goals? Yeah. How many businesses actually have more than 5 strategic goals for the business?
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah. Surely they don't, because they're not strategic.
They can't have. They're not. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. And this. Yeah. I completely agree with what you're saying. Because think back to when I had my recruitment agency and we had the staff and that kind of thing. Yeah, we probably didn't. Well, no, not even probably. We definitely didn't. Discuss priorities very well as a business. As far as the team were concerned, the priority was make money, fill jobs. And then you'd have some that would work naturally in a very kind of efficient manner, in that they would only ever pick up enough jobs that they knew they could manage without being stretched, you know. And once they've completed those, they'd move on to a new project and stuff. And then you had others that were just like, you know, I've got a job here, a job here, a job here. They're all different verticals. You know, 1 minute I'm looking for a senior finance manager, and then I'm also looking for a credit controller, and you're like, well, I mean, they're not anywhere near each other. Like, how are you even gonna? There's not even a crossover in talent pool, that kind of thing. Right? And so, on reflection, actually making your guys work, accepting that there are people that are like me and are like, you know, I want to work as little as possible and have the best possible outcome. Well, actually, the only way to do that is to prioritize your tasks properly. Yeah. Only work on the shit that you know you can turn around and you can deliver on. Yeah. And don't work on the distractions, and no matter how cutesy they might be. You know.
It sounds like I converted you.
Yeah, maybe. I don't. Yeah, I like to play devil's advocate, and I like to but I'm kind of, I'm at a weird point in my life where I'm like kind of going along and learning little bits from different people, and sort of then sort of like, how does this fit into my life? Because like, as corny as it sounds, I genuinely, hand on heart, believe my only purpose on this planet is to be a dad to my 2 kids. Like, that is my only purpose.
A brilliant thing.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was put on this planet to do. And so whether that's growing RecTools and starting a podcast, blah, 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 all of this shit that I do is to free up time for me to be a better dad. That's like my mentality. And people just don't kind of get that, because they're like, you know, you could grow this, you could scale this, you could do this, you could do that. And I'm like, Yeah, I could, but you know what? Well, I like to be able to go to my kid's sports day.
But there's a term for it, and that's a lifestyle business, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's and so many people have lifestyle businesses, and then what will happen is they'll get to a point where their lifestyle changes,
Yeah.
and so you'll get to a point where your kids leave home,
Yeah.
and you're going to still be a great dad, but it's not going to take as much time anymore.
That's it. Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you'll
yeah,
probably go, well, this brilliant lifestyle business that I've built up, actually, this is an opportunity for me now to grow it.
I could,
and turn those levers to make it like. I just did a rotation of a knob, not a lever there. I should have been turn those levers,
turn those knobs. Yeah. Hit those switches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
right, we have about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Let's talk to me about your sales enablement tool, because
Okay.
I think that's a big step that's gonna. Well, when I heard about it, my initial thing immediately was, shit, that'd be really useful in the recruitment industry.
Right.
And then I've spent the last half an hour trying to convince you to come out of your super niche mindset and come and pitch it everywhere else. So go on, tell us about
that. Okay, so essentially, we've at Verten we've developed a piece of software that sits with a salesperson as they have their live conversations, and basically we call it augmented conversation. So basically, we augment that conversation with all of the information that a salesperson needs to be able to land the deal. Mm-hmm. Now, the way that we will easily improve conversion ratios by minimum of 5%. Mm-hmm. Minimum of 5%. And if you look at a big business, that's a significant amount of money. Yeah. Significant. And even a small business, if you said to anybody, would you like 5% more business? 5% more revenue? They're going to
that's per salesperson that you've got, right?
Well, the percentage would be across overall the function. Okay. Yeah. But it's essentially, it gives you... So if you look at Copilot is brilliant, right? Mm-hmm. But Copilot will give you a summary of your meeting. Well, we do that. It then will give you maybe a bit more, like it'll give you some notes that were key points of a meeting and things like that. Well, we do things like sentiment analysis. We do analysis of the conversation, post-conversation, so that you can make sure that you're able to understand where you're going wrong and things like that. Yeah. But live during the call, we're also telling you that all that information.
Oh, okay, right. So it's not a reflection piece. It's a real time.
It works real time.
The old fashioned. My manager's plugged into my call and is sort of like
giving you post-it notes. Say this, do this. Exactly. And so it's doing that.
But in a less invasive manner.
Exactly. So now, where I came from with it when I invented the idea was basically complexity. So if you hire a salesperson and you say to them, here's a complex portfolio of products, I need you to go and sell it, and they don't know that portfolio, it will take them 6 to 12 months to sell it. Yeah. So if you think even if it's a minimum 6 months, if you're actually feeding them leads to go and try and sell to, you will burn hundreds, maybe thousands of leads on that one salesperson. Now, imagine all the money you're leaving on the table. So I was thinking there's got to be a better way. So essentially, through using a combination of AI, super smart thinking, trademark, and all these sorts of things, we created this product that sits with you real time and gives you all of the information about this complex portfolio that you need when you need it. Wow. It also coaches you while you're on the conversation. When you finish a conversation, it enables you to basically understand what solution there is in that sale, and will give you the ability to actually craft solutions to then sell to them. It does things like real time. Will send information to customers so that they know, or prospects, so they actually have fact sheets, whatever it is that you want them to have during that conversation.
Customizable to the sales process of the business, and actually given kind of how it's built, it's only going to get more accurate and intelligent as it goes on with the more data that gets fed into it.
Exactly. And so at the end of every call, you get the opportunity to help train the AI further. So you can basically help the AI to get better and better and better. Now, where we're going with it is we are going to build a fully AI salesperson. that will learn your portfolio and then will actively go and sell it, and people will think they're dealing with a human being. That's what we're going to build.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I'd love to hear how you feel that that's relevant for recruitment, because as I've already said, we're niching down onto IT managed service providers.
So obviously our mutual friend James mentioned it to me.
Yeah.
And immediately my mind's going, right, the recruitment sector is extremely kind of volatile at the minute. A lot of businesses are struggling because there's the remote working element, and the biggest argument within the recruitment sector of why people should go back into the office is a junior recruiter needs to have top billers, big billers around them to learn tricks of the trade and to kind of pick things up and have coaching and support.
Which I would argue is the same for any role in any business.
Absolutely.
A junior always needs experienced people, whether that's recruitment, software, finance, whatever it is, accounting, whatever. They need people.
And so I was like, okay. And then you've got the additional bit of, you've got a generation of people who don't particularly like to sell. Sales has never been a vocation. It's always been something people fall into.
Yeah.
You don't train to go and be a salesperson really, in terms of, there's no degree or doctorate or training course. There is for everything else, right? And so actually having an actual, what I call a proper co-pilot, that can fly the plane, not just tell you what's going on. Right? A proper co-pilot like that tool would be extremely useful in the recruitment industry, because we do need to know sentiment. How do we think the prospect? I think this call is going really well. I have that a lot. And recruitment people listening will know this as well. We have salespeople all the time that come off a call like, that was a wicked call. Yeah. And then you listen back to it and you're like, that person did not listen to a word you said and was not engaged and has agreed to a Teams meeting with you to get you off the phone.
Yeah.
How have you missed that? Like, are you dense? Is there something not there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having as a business owner, knowing that there's a bit of kit that is supporting my guys when they are on the phones and supporting them not just with this conversation maybe a bit too heavy on your side, let them talk a bit more.
It does that.
This conversation is, sounding very corporate professional. That's great. This person's mentioned these 3 things. You might want to pick on those threads a little bit more because you've missed the fact that she mentioned the interview's happening next week. Go back to that. And actually, if it could even then dig into the CRM based on the live conversation and suggest, we've got these candidates on our database that might be of interest. We haven't rang them yet, but actually I've got a Davoc CV here that, what you've just said, Davoc might be of interest to you. Let me real time send a CV. Oh, that does look interesting. Cool. Well, I'll call him and see if he's interested.
Yeah.
That type of tool will change the game within recruitment.
And absolutely, we could do that as well. I mean, the integration with CRM, not a problem really. That sort of
all good CRMs are now. They're open to, the APIs are available readily. That's why I was like, oh wait, it's there. So I'm just saying,
I can see it.
If you want to get into that
if anybody
space,
wants to come and speak to me,
if you want to get into that space, I can gateway that for you. Right? Okay. I'm just saying.
Sounds good.
But okay. So right, let's close it off then. Closing thoughts. Let's take it back to the original thing. Why do most businesses not achieve their potential?
One word: prioritization. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, if you went into nearly any business right now, I bet you they would have non-sequential priorities, that they would have categorized them. And as soon as you see that, you know that they're not.
As soon as you see that, you're like, oh yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's play a game.
I do due diligence for M&A and things like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always look for when I do due diligence for not just the IT bit and the security, IT security and whatever, but the holistic whole business stuff, is I ask them to show me their projects and what they're working on. And one of them that I did reasonably recently there was 18 people in the business, and I think they were working on about 20-something projects. Then they were sequencing another 60-odd to try and to be ready to be worked on. And I'm like, you're never going to deliver anything.
Yeah.
You're just not going to deliver anything. What are the priorities? Oh, well, we're working on this. And then when we've got some spare time, we go and do this. And then we've got a bit other spare time, we go and do this. And okay, so why have you got all the spare time? That would be my first
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
have you got
yeah,
loads
yeah.
of spare time?
Yeah. You
Why are
seem
you
to
not
spend a lot
able
of
to
spare time doing things. Yeah.
do it all on this? You know, and if
Yeah.
it's a lot of the time it's because it's boring.
Yeah.
People have not made the job exciting and interesting. Like I took a massive project for, I'm not going to say who it's for, but for a big financial,
We'll
and
flash at the
a
bottom.
massive project that was failing. And basically I turned it around and got it to deliver. And the reason was for a couple of things. One, I got prioritization working really, really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
We worked on small things and we had a conveyor belt of small things going through the whole project, yeah? And the other one was I managed to make everybody laugh and have a good time. And those two things will make anything successful, is my view.
There you go. I think, yeah, that's a great place to end it. All right, guys. Well, look, thank you very much for listening to another episode of RecTalk. Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube channel and for all your questions and comments that come through. And we'll see you again next time for those who are probably still listening. But mate,
Cheers,
this has been
mate.
really good. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, that's good. I like ones like that kind of go a little bit off topic and then kind of run back in again because
Yeah.
it always feels